Wire stitching machine Model 7 Miruna. Instructions manual. Electric stitching machine. Electric stitching machine with pedal drive. Developed for the food industry, handouts, packaging, leather, blister packaging and other industrial and commercial purposes. Technical specifications. Staples thickness, up to 4 mm. Staples width, 10 mm. Dots per minute, 200. Arm length, 200 mm. Machine weight, 53 kilograms. Motor, single phase. Wire, 2 24 and 3 23. Plastic coil 2 kilograms. Initial safety recommendations. Operators who will install and use the machine must be properly oriented and wearing personal protective equipment. Operating instructions for the Model 7 clipping machine. When taking the machine out of the package, it's necessary to carefully clean it. Then lubricate all sliding and rotating parts with good quality SAE 30 mineral oil. The lubrication locations are marked with red dots. Caution: do not use grease. Wiring. The electrical installation must be carried out exclusively by a qualified technician, using as an aid the electrical diagram sent with the equipment. Note: the part numbers in these instructions are the same as those mentioned in the spare parts list. If it's a new machine, a step-by-step example of how the wire is sequenced in the equipment is sent with the equipment, from the spool until the wire arrives at the stapling point. This example must be removed before inserting the new wire. Insert the wire. Make sure that the correct wire will be used in the equipment, identified on the 2 24 or 3 23 spool itself. The choice of wire is defined by the customer. To insert the wire, remove the compressor handle of the disc from the spool. Place the spool on the disc rod. Make sure that at the time of unwinding the wire, the spool rotates counterclockwise. Then pass the end of the wire through the guide springs. Then pull an amount of wire. Try to align with your fingertips, leaving the wire straight, removing the curve left from the spool. This movement will help when introducing the wire into the equipment. Subsequently, take the end of the wire and place it in the firming box piece. In this step it will be necessary the help of a screwdriver to push the roller to the left side inside the firming box piece. To insert the wire and push the roller until the wire passes into the head, which will pass through the wire entry guide until it reaches the guide piece. This whole process should take place in a light way, feeling that there is no difficulty, obstruction, in the procedure of introducing the wire into the equipment. Following these recommendations, you will obtain a better precision of the staple with each activation of the equipment, having a uniform quantity and standardized stapling. In this way you will prevent one leg of the staple from being different from the other in each activation. Changing the wire. Once you have identified that all the material on the reel has been used, stop starting the equipment and turn off the engine. If necessary, cut the wire between the spool and the spring. The surplus material can be removed before the firming box using a screwdriver. Push the roller to the left with one hand, and with the other pull the wire out of the equipment or use pliers to assist in the removal of this material. To remove the spool, release the compression handle of the spool disc, remove the used spool and add the new spool, attach the compression handle and perform the following procedures. After you have performed this procedure, go back to instructions on how to insert the wire. Change the knife. Loosen the screws from the compression arm until you reach a point where you can remove the safety shield, which will be removed when you remove the front cover. Loosen the screws and remove the front cover. Pull the forming guide piece and the staple placer. Then stand on a table with the knife position facing up. With the help of a screwdriver, loosen the screw and remove the knife with wear. Then position the new knife and tighten the screw. Once this is done, reposition the removed parts on the machine and replace the front cover. Note, it's always interesting to buy a new knife to buy the screw together. To change the parts at the same time, avoiding future problems. Check and rotate knife tube. Whenever the knife is replaced, it's necessary to rotate the knife tube, to preserve and increase the useful life of the new knife that is being installed in your equipment. Loosen the screw on the compressor arm, until you reach a point where you can remove the shield, which will be removed when you remove the front cover. For this rotation, it's necessary to remove the front cover, the staple forming guide, and move the wire entry guide by removing the lower screw and loosening the upper screw, so you can rotate the upper screw backward, directing the exit point of the wire entry guide wire backward, making room to rotate the matrix knife and remove the guide part. After removing the pieces, where the guide piece was removed, surrounding this piece to a similar to a tube that will also need to be removed with the help of a hammer and a round or square material that you can hit from right to left. Just by tapping on the knife tube piece, after removal you must rotate until you leave where the cutting point of the previous knife with where was made. Once the rotation has been carried out, perform the assembly again in the same limit position as the part was before, parallel to the channel where the forming guide makes its sliding movement. Once this procedure is done, all the removed parts can be reassembled. Wire entering wrong tab. If the wire bends at the entrance of the guide piece, check behind the hammer, under the cylinder head, if the spring is still pressing on the hammer. If the spring is broken, it's necessary to replace it. If it's intact, check the alignment of the guide piece. Evaluate if the wire is entering the guide part with ease. Adjust the length of the wire leg. Looking at the machine from the front on the left side cover and right side, there is a hole. If you look inside you will have a screw on each side. With a 4 mm Tellep or Allen wrench, as necessary increase or decrease the size of the staple's leg. You can only control the leg on the right side of the staple. For this adjustment to occur it's necessary to loosen one side of the screw and tighten the other side. And vice versa if it's necessary to perform the opposite movement until you find the necessary position for the staple to form evenly. At each adjustment, activate the machine 3 to 5 times and thus evaluate if it will be necessary to increase or decrease the size of the staple's leg. Repeat each time you make a new adjustment until you are sure it's in the correct position. Compressor arm adjustment. According to the thickness of the paper to be stapled, it will be necessary to adjust the compressor arm. There is a minimum thickness to staple. Without the need for adjustment, it's 0.5 mm. From this thickness it may be necessary to adjust the compressor arm. With the maximum thickness limit of 4 mm, remembering that to staple in this thickness only using the wire 3/23. For the adjustment, it's only necessary to loosen, unscrew, the adjusted compression shaft. Release the shaft until you see that at the time of stapling it occurs smoothly, with the staple closing on the paper, that there is no excessive pressure at the time of stapling on the compressor arm, thus avoiding premature wear on the head parts. Important. We recommend that always at the time of activating the equipment, regardless of the purpose, always use a sheet of paper so that the detached staple is stuck in this material, thus preventing this clip from returning into the system and damaging the equipment and its functionality.